Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ant Pod. The time has now started, and today we are talking about the future nest of, ant keeping nest. Originally, I wrote this video down for a script even before the Ant Pod was mixed together like we are today. Today we are a little bit of a bigger crew than back when I initially wrote this down. And I wrote it down because back then the Venus was just coming out and everybody was talking about it, and we are hearing about the Saturn. And the Venus is of course a Venus setup from Wakushi. It's based around 3 test tubes and a little mini outworld, and the Saturn is like a big upgrade on that, which is a big outworld with either 5 or 7 test tubes if I'm not mistaken. And it just got me thinking, whenever I'm doing a lot of TikTok, and especially Danish TikTok. I have a lot of newbies contacting me saying, what's the best ant to get and what is the best setup to get? And initially, when I started before the Venus was a thing last year or a few years back, I always said, oh, you just need a test tube, and then you can do tinfoil dishes and all of this. And I feel the Venus has just completely changed the market on that perspective. And today I'm always saying, get the Venus from Wakushi, then get the queens from either capture them in the wild or buy them from someone like maybe Antics or Aesthetic Ants or wherever you are based in the world. And I just feel today it's just the thing I always say, get the Venus from Wakushi, because it's just such a fail-safe choice. And that inspired this episode because I feel like I've seen a lot of Venus-inspired products from other companies. I don't know what came first, but in Australia they also have like a Venus style thing. Of course, it isn't a Venus, but it's also based around 3 test tubes and an outworld. And yeah, I just thought we would make an episode talking about this. I think Ryan is not here today, by the way, and Ryan would be good to have because Ryan is not good with test tubes, so he would be good with counter arguments. But we do have Sam here. Hello, Sam. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you.
And what do you think of the Venus and the Saturn? Is it the future, or what do you think about them?
In a short answer, I think it is. Obviously, there are going to be other things that are going to be popular and are going to stay popular. As the ant keeping hobby grows, I think with that, it's going to be a lot more newer ant keepers. And because they're newer and they just want something they can understand and something that's simple, I think those two are going to shine and really, gain a lot of popularity.
Yeah. So where I've before we just say, let's just say hello to Casey as well, because we also have Casey. And Casey, you use a lot of Tar Heel ants, and of course Tar Heel's ants is everything but test tubes. It's not test tubes at all. What do you think from an American perspective, not really playing around with these tubes all over the place? What do you think of something like a Venus or a Saturn nest?
I have the Venus pulled up right now. I'm looking at it. It looks really nice, honestly. I might have to try one, but for the most part, I mostly use the fancy blue sponges and the 20mm test tubes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Venus haven't really hit the Americans like it has hit. Like other version have hit Australia, and of course the Venus is. I don't know. It's such a nest that I just feel it can be put in for everything. So Sam, the upgrade from the Venus is the Saturn, and the Saturn is this 5. If it's the medium Saturn, it's 5 test tubes, and if it's the large, it's 7 test tubes. How many Saturns do you have over at Antics? Because the thing with them, they are very space efficient, and you can just put 10 of them next to each other. Do you have a count on how many you have?
Oh, right. You're testing my brain here now. So we've got... Right, I'm going to just add them up in my head quick. We've got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7... 7 or 8, I think. Yeah, I believe it's 7. So there could be an 8th lying around somewhere. But we haven't filled it. So yeah, we've got 7 at the minute, all up and running with different species in.
And then, is there a reason why you chose the Saturn compared to a regular, normal Ants Canada nest or Wakushi Gen 3 nest or something? Is there a reason why you chose the Saturn?
So on the first basis of against like something natural, the number one obvious thing is because we can see them straight away. And then back to your point, obviously with a normal kind of flat nest, you can also see, but you have to take the cover off. And when connected to Outworlds and things like that, the nest has to be positioned in such a way where in our collection room, we then have to take covers off to show people and take covers back on. And if they're on shelves, then it can be hard to look over the whole nest. With a Saturn, you can obviously just put it on a shelf, and for customers to come in or people just, say for AntCon, right, it was perfect because they were all on display. And it was just so easy to see. And it was, for new people as well, it could be so simple. It was literally test tubes where, as we all know, the Saturn is literally, the whole design is just revolved around the test tube. So for new people coming in, they saw all the ants doing so well in those simple test tube setups. It was just a win-win for us, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the day that the Saturn really came out to a lot of people. I remember I talked with Wakushi and he was like, I think I don't know if he sold out, but he sold a lot of them. Of course, they were also in the AntCon GIF like in the, if you got the gold ticket, you got I think you got the medium Saturn. I feel the thing again, we are losing Ryan because Ryan, I think he would be very much against it. But that's why we have Casey. Because I just feel I just got my first Saturn into use not that long ago. I've known about it for a while, and I've known it was the upgraded version of the Venus, so just 7 test tubes. The thing I've completely forgot to say is, the thing with the Saturn is also it's very price efficient, because you have both a big nest and you have an Outworld both in one. Now, I don't have the price up right here, so I can't remember the price. I'll just get that up for the next part. But I'm pretty sure that if you're buying a nest,
if you want to look at the Venus,
yeah, I think the Venus is £16.
Yeah, 16.95 GBP, whatever that means.
Yeah, pounds something.
Great British pounds.
Oh, great British pounds. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to say that. But the thing with the Saturn is just it's space efficient. It's cheap compared to how much space you get. And I'm just thinking here, sitting, it would be so much easier just to have Saturns all over the room. I mean, it's the boring choice, but it's just so space efficient and efficient with feeding them and everything. But of course, Casey, you don't have the Saturn, and you are hearing this. I'm guessing you haven't heard much about the Saturn and Venus before. What do you think of this whole concept? Because again, you're using many Tahil ants nests, and they of course don't have a test tubes at all.
Okay, so the main reason I do use Tar Heel ants is because my monkey brain tells me that heavy things are quality. But looking at, like, I have them pulled up on the Venus and the Saturn pulled up on Google, and the tubes stacked on the back would be really nice, honestly, if there was like a little bit of plaster or something in there for them to like crawl on. I think honeypots pretty much always right now because I really want some and I haven't caught any yet. But
I don't think honeypots are ideal for Saturn.
They might be, actually, if you put if the tubes had like a little bit of plaster on like the top side of the tube, like stuck in there, you know, they might be able to hang from that, or at least on the sides of the walls a little bit. It might, or like if I bought this, I would absolutely modify the test tubes and make it workable for honeypots, because yeah, you're right. If you had like 5 or 6 of these lined up, you could put several big colonies in there, like side by side, and it would be all in one and pretty easy to maintain. I think they look nice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're easy expandable, like the Tahil ants. They have I think Tahil ants also has an expansion port on each side, so you can just connect them side by side. And something quite interesting came up that not long ago. Lynn showed Ninoturo Lynn. She showed her Venus setup where she had put a bamboo test tube in. So that way a bamboo tube could also be used in a Venus. And that also just kind of changed the whole concept, because I don't know about you guys. I have never seen a bamboo in real life. I've never used it. But I'm also feeling they are also getting more and more popular at the moment. More and more people are just founding and using them to have the entire colony inside. So you hadn't seen them, Casey. What about you, Sam? Have you seen them or used them in real life?
The bamboo tubes?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used them a while ago. I'm trying to think when. It's before I started working for Antantics, so I haven't got much experience with them. They seem to work well, and for some of the trickier species that really just want something more natural to kind of grip onto, I think they can work a lot better, but I haven't got much experience to kind of add to that.
No, I haven't.
I'd like
I
to
just
be more kind of, if they, like my own kind of research of if I really think they work, if they don't, as opposed to just hearing things.
Yeah, and of course we the topic today is pretty much the future. Is it test tubes? I originally put down is the future simple, and I think we're gonna mix up things a little bit and grab the viewers' attentions now and get the viewers in, because we have asked the viewers on the Antpod Instagram, where I made the story on the Antpod Instagram saying, with Wakushi launching the Venus Nest and the Saturn Nest, both based around test tubes, we want to ask you, do you think the future will be simpler nest, and what would your dream nest be? And we got a quite significant 91% saying they think the future will be simple. And I'm all aboard that train, man. It's just hard not to see the future being simple. Do you guys want them to be simple, or would you like? Of course, Sam, you have the store part, the place where people can come in and see them. You of course want that part to be quite simple and low maintenance.
Yeah.
But in your own collection, would you like it to be simple tubes, or would you rather have complicated nests?
Oh, so for my own personal collection, what I've got on the way at the minute they're kind of scattered around the room and heat cables and all the rest of it. But I'm going to get two great big vivariums, like reptile ones, the same as we use at Antics. And then I'll heat all of those and I'll have all the different nests and stuff in there. So for me, I think it might have to be simple just because I haven't got that much space. Maybe if I had like a whole room as opposed to a section of my room, I might mix it up a bit with, big natural setups and outworlds scattered all around the place as opposed to Saturns and things like that. For me, I think it might have to be a Saturn as well. Or kind of a simple test tube. Anything simple. Anything I could stack or really space efficient then.
Yeah, what about you, Casey? Would you rather have complicated setups or simple, boring test tube Saturn style nest?
Well, simple makes it easy to care for the ants, right? So yeah, I think so. I want to grow big colonies. I'm kind of done collecting like smaller ants, but yeah, I feel like simple makes care simpler, So yeah, I can see things getting more simple, but just who I am as a person. If I go DIY, I'm making something complicated.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You just showed the other day that you had made quite a complicated Tar Heel ant styled nest. That was anything but simple. But if I shall end with my thoughts, I've hit the point now that I don't know how many ant colonies I have, 18, something like that. And the thing is, with something like my Laches flavus, I now have to give them a new nest to upgrade for them to move into a new nest, so I can ditch the old nest and clean it and make it ready for the next ant colony. And then I have to change the outworld to make everything bigger and all of this. And I feel like with my Tetromerium bicarinatum that are just in the large Saturn, whenever they fill the tube, I just pop in I pop in the next tube, because all the others are just, I have 6 empty tubes, and I'll just be able to connect the next one. And that's where I feel like the Saturn just wins. It completely explodes the other and just pushes the other nest away. Because the other nest, I now have to think, okay, I have to move them into a new nest, and all of this where, I don't know. I'm really a Saturn fanboy. Again, I wish Ryan would be here so he can say, well, naturalistic is the thing to go. But yeah, of course we don't have Ryan here. But Casey, I'm wondering if you would like to read, hey, it's Eli's thought from the podcast or from the Instagram.
Yeah, it says, I think it'd be nice if Wakushi started selling white-tongue nests or nests similar to Tar Heel ants. I
Yeah.
would like to see more Tar Heel style stuff because he's only got so many designs, you know. So I'd like to see a lot more innovation in like species specific style nests. I feel like that can still be done simply, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think well, you of course have Pormo Arts as a neighboring country. Do you feel like they are on the same market, or do you think they are on a different market? Pormo Arts, of course, also being someone who makes a bit more plaster-alike naturalistic setups, and not naturalistic setups. Yeah, cave-like setups.
A lot of their stuff seems to be like half plaster, half 3D print, and I do like it. I have ordered a little bit of their stuff, but to be honest, I haven't been keeping track. I should really get more into that.
Yeah, I think where I hate Eli's comment goes to show, or I think the point to make with that is I think Wakushi is a lot all in on acrylic and 3D printing. And I think we have, I don't know, do we have, Sam, you must know this as you are a nerd, do we have any big white-tongue producing nest in Europe?
Right.
Because
So
Antkit, yeah, they make a little bit, but
they used to make quite a lot a few years ago. I haven't looked at what they've currently got available. I think they died down a little bit, and I'm not too sure whereabouts they are at the minute. And who else?
What are they called? The blue nest.
Yes.
The blue nest.
Is it Ant-Man?
What are they called?
Is that
Yes, yeah,
that's
the
the
fusion nest, I think it's called.
Yeah, so I saw those as well. But again, I never bought or I've never had them in person. And it's always the problem with white-tongue nests that I seem to find, if it's just kind of straight white-tongue, is that the humidity fluctuates quite a lot, and it's very hard to nail down on a constant humidity. Because as you know, it doesn't really matter if it's off by 20% or up by 20%. It's more the fact that the ants can work around it if it's constant. And I think that's one of the main problems with a white-tongue nest.
Yeah, that's also what I'm hearing. Especially if you don't paint them, the humidity just flies out all the way around. Where if you put some paint on it, it keeps the humidity in a little bit. But that's, I think it was Aesthetic who said that he had a colony that moved in, moved out, moved in, depending on he hydrated it.
That's the
last
thing.
year or something.
Yeah, it fluctuates so much, and then going back to the simple kind of way of ant keeping, if you're a beginner and you're really stressing over hydrating or not hydrating, or you can put them in a Venus nest, what are you going to choose? I know for me it's the Venus, right?
Oh, perfect way to put it back to the topic.
Oh, 100%.
Perfect way, man. Okay, so again, we of course asked the viewers, what would your dream nest be? And Ryan was supposed to read up Martin's comments saying, full natural are the best. I keep mainly primitive ants, and that's the key. Primitive ants. Is that like Venators?
Yeah, so things that
like Nera and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think it's there's a limit. I think the test tubes are good for certain species because you would never put leaf cutters in a Venus. So I think it's still the viewer's own job to find out if a nest is suitable. But yeah, that is true. That of course they're not suitable for everything, but yeah, I don't think any nests are.
So I do want to try harps in a Venus nest, or something similar. I'm not too sure if they'll fit inside a Saturn. I don't think they will. But the fact that in the wild they make quite long kind of chambers, almost like test tube shape. So I feel like in the right environment, a Venus could possibly work. But I haven't tried it. I need to try it.
Yeah, good thing you have easy access to ants then.
But I am quite lucky, isn't it? It's like I've got in my head, I go, right, I want to try something. And then I just steal a colony for a few weeks and Rich won't mind.
Sam, would you like to read the I felt like that was very aggressive change, but
No, that's okay.
Yeah. Sometimes when I hear the podcast back, I just sometimes just change the subject quite aggressively. That's not supposed to be like that. But can you read Anton's Uh, and Anton?
Yeah, I got
Anton?
it.
It's like and on, but I think it's just Anton. Yeah.
Okay, so something more hands-off, super simple and compatible, less frequent watering. So
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
Saturn, isn't it?
it is. Well, it depends. It doesn't have to be a Saturn, but it's just something again where things like Whitong, you'd have to frequently look at it, and then other nests you can frequently have to look at it. I know what's the gypsum. I think that's the right word. That seems to hold its humidity a lot better than Whitong, and obviously they're used
Yeah.
in a lot of different nests now. So I think that's a. It doesn't have to be hard just if you're not using a kind of a Venus or a Saturn, but if you want super simple, then yeah, it still goes back to the same, doesn't it?
I mean, to be honest, something more hands-off, super simple, and compatible. That's also quite a lot of Port Morat's Tar Heel lands.
Yeah.
Because yeah, Tar Heel lands have the whole. It has like a big water reservoir. How often do you have to refill the water on a Tar Heel land?
I refill all mine at least once every other week. It is pretty hands off. They're not bad. They are not bad at all. There's a reason I'm such a Tar Heel Ants fanboy.
Yeah, it's fun. We don't have a Tar Heel ant in Europe, and you don't have you don't have a Wakushi style, as far as I know, in United States. It's yeah.
There's a couple guys trying to work out. So well, we have My Antics, which is pretty close to Antantics.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He gave himself a reputation. I'm not gonna say anything bad because I am friends with him on Facebook and I talk to him once in a while. But he's got his own 3D printed stuff that looks pretty decent.
Yeah, that's the big circle ones, right?
I haven't tried it yet though. I haven't tried them. Yeah, he's got that, and then he's got another one that kind of has a water tower. It has like a slide out tray that you put water in, sort of like Ants Canada style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really tried anything. I bought the one mini honey cell from and like a couple eBay 3D printed nests, and yeah, the mini honey cell did do good. I messed with the ant too much and it died. But
yeah.
the other 3D printed nests I've tried off of Amazon and eBay are just they're no go, and like I hate to say it, but they kind of put me off of 3D printed nests. I really should try a good quality, good designed one. Maybe we can set up a trade where I mail you a mini herd, somebody mails me a Venus.
That's true. That's very true. I think that's very also good to say that I think especially with like big acrylic nests that you often see on very cheap big acrylic nests, the ones where you can open like different sections. I feel like a lot of people are getting them, and then the ants inside are not doing good because they're just made to be mass produced a lot. I personally, I've lost a lot of respect for them at least. Although I think D Colony he did transform one by putting plaster beneath it. I think beneath it.
Yeah, I watched that this week actually.
Yeah.
He did modify it quite a bit, and it did I think it did come out looking pretty nice, but he hasn't posted an update on how his ants are doing in there quite yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that was a cool upgrade because I feel you don't really see a lot of them actually being used. You just see a lot of people unbox it. But going back to the viewers' thoughts, I'll take this comment.
Okay.
As a represent of the Venus lovers and the Saturn lovers, Campo Nico have said Saturn, but from glass, so a Saturn made out of glass. And yeah, Campo Nico recently got a glass loving stage where he got all of his he has two big colonies that are just pretty much a loose Saturn because it's a big glass box with test tubes inside. So it's like it's the relaxed Saturn. But yeah, the thing is, I like it's the tubs and tube setup pretty much for those. Yeah, the Saturn is a nicer way of doing a tubs and tube setup, and yeah, back when I started Ankeeping, I felt like I never really liked something like that because, to be honest, I'm not.
It clears up a lot of space for a tubs and tubes setup because you don't have your tubes laying on the floor. It stands them up
Right.
against the back wall, and that makes it really nice. Like that, I haven't checked it out until you just mentioned it. Like, yeah, they look really nice. I might have to get one of those.
To be honest, I'd rather send you a Saturn than a Venus, because I fell in love with the Saturn the day I built it and started actually using it, just because. I mean, it is just the upgraded Venus, but the thing with the Venus is, the Venus is very space efficient. You can have quite large colonies, and you can just put 10 on top of each other's.
Yeah, it looks like they come with a little. You can buy a little carrying rack for them. I was just.
Yeah,
looking at
I'm
that.
not sure. I'm not sure if that's officially out. I think I actually have the version on the pictures because he sent me an old prototype. But that works brilliantly. I had 5 nests in use at once, and it just all were on that one, and took up 0 space. But yeah, I feel like it is just a tops and tubes, and I feel with a tops and tubes, I don't really like the look of it because it's so messy having test tubes all over the place. But just by putting them on the wall, it looks so much cleaner. And yeah, it's
So I think a Saturn from glass, from the comment would be very popular if it hit the market.
But also harder to
That would
manufacture.
appeal.
Yeah. So
would
and this
also
is the
appeal
split
to
side of
my-
it. Sorry, carry on.
I was gonna say that would also appeal to the monkey brain thing I said earlier, where heavy
Yeah, it's
being
heavy.
bulky.
Yeah, because I feel the big thing with glass is just it's harder to work with. So
Yeah.
from
it's
assembling a Saturn, it's a lot of screws you have to put in, and a lot of holes. And I think glass, when you're working with glass, that's just silicone together everything.
you need a lot of
Yeah.
skill as well to be able to do it right.
Yeah.
And the thing of if you did have a Saturn from glass in the future is that it would cost an awful lot more. Just because
Yeah.
it's made out of glass. So I guess this is an interesting thing. Do you think the price has a point to do with how simple? So technically, no. But do you know when people go, I just want something simple, do you think a price comes into that as well? Which is why the Venus and Saturn do so well, because it's affordable for a lot of people.
Definitely. I feel the Saturn may scare people when they see the price until they notice how many ants can be inside of it.
Yeah.
Both you don't need to buy a nest and you don't need to buy an outworld, you just need to buy one. I feel the price may scare people because they don't realize how good it is. But the Venus is just such a safe winner, man. It's crazy how cheap it is compared to what you get out of it. But I think almost Sam, you should almost read the next one. I did put CT in, Casey, but I think was it you, Sam, in these best nest episodes? You said you want something that was 50-50, right?
Yeah, that was my comment.
Yeah. So maybe you should read this on. Just can you read the next comment?
Okay, so a nest that looks very with 2 R's and then natural. So
See, I don't know if it's spelled wrong or not.
I think so.
Okay, yeah, I don't see that.
I think the two R's are there for emphasis.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
so
I
very.
yeah. So,
Yeah, so we have Anthem saying, yeah, nest that looks very natural. That would be the dream nest.
and this is going back to like a podcast before. This is the difficult thing of how can you make something that's functional, the same as the Saturn or Venus, but then try to make it look kind of like these natural setups. So the way people tend to combat this and creative side coming through is by putting bits of kind of wood and whatever you want to put in the outworld and bits of gravel, and really kind of build that aspect up to make it look more natural and let people be creative with it. It would be hard to make it any more natural from that. If that makes any sense.
It's so the Tar Heel Ants markets their stuff as naturalistic, not naturalistic as the same way as Antscapes, Orion. But forgot where I was going with that. My bad. some of his, he does put a little bit of, he'll put like, what is it, petrified wood in the top when he pours it, and has like little rocks and stalactites and stuff in there. But like you can only get so far with that. And it's hard to have nesting chambers with actual substrate and like loose dirt with glass, because if your humidity goes up and you have any condensation at all, the ants will 100% stick all the dirt to the window.
Yeah.
Can't see anything.
I feel your pain with that one. Yeah. It's the same with glass test tubes. It's when you
Do you
house
think it's the
things like
same?
Diversa and all the rest of it.
Ah, yeah, that's true. That's actually another thing I want to mention. I think I also said it in the best nest. I mean, this is a little bit best nest point two, although this may be the future nest instead. I feel when I put my colonies into artificial nest from a test tube into an artificial nest, a lot of the pupae started to fail because they didn't have that cotton. They could pull a little bit of the cotton and help them spin the cocoons. And if you just buy a bare naturalistic setup, or not a naturalistic, an acrylic setup, the ants may struggle on that behalf. I don't know if it's a real thing, or maybe it's just me who have been
So that's
unlucky.
an interesting point. Because it could be the case if you think they're just in a test tube, you might think it's the same as an acrylic nest because they haven't actually got any substrate, the pupae to hold on to spin the cocoons.
Yeah,
but it could be that I've noticed this, that a lot of the time the queens or the workers will pull some of the cotton and kind of make like a little bed.
Yeah, exactly.
And that you could have a very good point there, is that test tubes can be a lot more beneficial than we think.
Yeah, so I have an example. I have a Flavus colony at the moment. They have a ton of eggs, they have a ton of larvae, they don't have any cocoons. In that test tube, they all had cocoons and everything worked well, and now the colony is just completely backfired because they don't grow, because they don't pupate. And I've tried putting trash in front of them to get some trash inside. I've tried putting cotton inside, but the larvae just don't seem to spin their cocoons. And I don't know if it's because it's too humid or what's the big problem. I think the problem at the moment may be humidity, but still, again, that's because of you have the human interferences with I have to hydrate the nest, where with the test tubes they just they did well because, yeah, they just did well. And yeah, with that little quiet silence, Jack, I would like to officially piss off some stores. No, I'm not gonna lie. This episode is of course a little bit hinted towards the future of ant keeping and the future of Nest. And one thing I must say, all of this with we want simple Nest. We want something like Tar Heel ants that you don't need to hydrate every week. We want something like test tubes that we don't need to work with at all. I feel something like a sponge system, sponge nest. I'm gonna go out and be honest and aggressive. I hate sponges. They are the worst. Of course, Casey, you haven't even seen a sponge nest, maybe because that is not really. I guess with the 3D printed nest you have tried, you do have it. But I never do well with sponge nests and cotton nests. I don't know why. I just my way of hydrating them together with being in a room that is currently 26 degrees. I'm just a big fan of gypsum. And of course, the same with the Tar Heel ants because that has a big water reservoir. I don't know. Do you? Am I alone with my opinions, or do you feel it's the same?
Nope, you're right on point. For me, sponges. If it's not the fancy blue PVA sponge inside of a test tube, in particular, sponges are asking for mold.
Yeah.
Or algae, or just something. It just seems like so many things can go wrong with the sponge.
They look good for about a week.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it was the urban ant keeper who once said he had a good point. It was just a theory, but he had the theory that when he was hydrating the sponge, it was all black, the sponge almost, and he had the theory that the small black bacteria was drinking the water and drying the sponge up. I don't know if it's real or not, but it wouldn't surprise me that if it was real, and that was the reason why his nest was incredibly dry compared to when he initially got it in use. And I don't know. I'm not a fan of sponges.
I think it's everyone, including myself, just wants the easier option now, or a lot of the time. When I was younger, I'd probably say to myself, right, I'll have a challenge. I've got nothing else to do, all the rest of it. But now I'm working, and you've got stuff to do. You're working. AC works. It's a case of we need to come home and just enjoy them, right? As opposed to worrying about how many kind of milliliters we're putting into a sponge. So just the convenient option of let's enjoy the species and not worry about having to hydrate every day and oh no, I'm out tonight. What if I don't hydrate? Everything like that then.
Yeah, I was very impressed when Ants Hood he did a review on a sponge nest. The I want to say Antboy Smartness. I think it was the Antboy Smartness. Yeah, and he tried to hydrate the nest and test the humidity, and he had to hydrate them every second to third day. And yeah, that's I've had a few sponge nests, and my ants have never done well in them. And I can say 100% sure I didn't hydrate them every few days. I hydrate all my nests once a week. But the problem I have with the gypsum nest is I overhydrate them because you only need to hydrate the gypsum nest like once every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Like I put a heat cable on my Nicobarrensis and I haven't hydrated the block for a month and I can't see inside because it's just so humid. Yeah, I'm just surprised for how good gypsum works. And I feel that's definitely something I feel like it's except for high-tech ants and Wakushi, I don't think we have any European stores that actually use gypsum blocks. Of course, in America they use a little bit of a different system. I think Poma Arts the Poma Arts use a very different system. They have the whole water evaporate. I don't know. I guess it's a little bit like the Tar Heel ants because the Tar Heel ants is a lot more simple, just being.
It is really, really similar. So Tar Heel Ants, their water tower is it's a tea light candle cup with some 120 micron mesh glued to it, or I don't know exactly how he gets them on. I haven't deconstructed one yet. And that's essentially how I tried to, with my DIY one, I kind of did the same thing, and I have figured out how he does it, maybe, but the way I did my DIY one was I laid like a base layer of the gypsum plaster down, and then I piled some dirt on top of that, like a big, my nest chamber, and then I poured more on top of that, kind of slow, and like let it all. I think that's how he's doing it. So, but yeah, the gypsum, yeah, it holds moisture for a really long time, like. And the more ants you have in your enclosure, like the more ants are in the Tar Heel nest, the longer it stays humid. Like that water doesn't evaporate quite as fast. And I think it's the ants doing it. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
The more ants in there, the longer you have to wait to rehydrate the nest.
Yeah, so I've got something a bit random, but it's kind of on topic, but I can add to it somehow.
I mean, with the topic we've done with the topic, so we have a few minutes of just chatting.
I can just go for it.
Just go.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
So within the leafcutter pods, Wakushi leafcutter pods, obviously you're used to when they first start, you need to hydrate them, just to keep that humidity up. But what we found, Sid's found, and then we found as well, is that the fungus gets to a certain point and the colony gets to a certain size and they're bringing leaves in regularly. The water from the leaves, there's enough kind of leaves being cut where we actually have to drain the nest. So the little, what's it called? Where you put the water in now in the new pods.
Hydration chamber.
Yeah, it fills up by itself because there's so much evaporation and everything from the leaves. The humidity, the more ants and the more fungus and the more leaves that go in, it hydrates itself. And we actually have to drain it out as opposed to add.
Yeah, and that's something I thought never to do with a nest, to dehydrate.
It is, isn't it? It makes you question what you're doing, but especially when you try so hard to keep that humidity high, and all of a sudden you're taking water out, it feels a bit off.
The thing is, with that whole thought. I'm talking a lot with Wakushi with development because I need new pods desperately. I put a box and decided, you know what? This colony is growing way too fast. If they can handle it, they will handle it. So I just put a box and I just let them go through. And I filled the box with new leaves, young leaves. So all of the leaves would be eaten and gone, no branches remaining.
Okay.
Just to see what they did. And I have a hand-sized fungi now in a completely dry chamber. And the only humidity in there is the leaves that the ants bring into the chamber.
Yeah.
So it's a completely dry fungi. But the only thing I noticed was when I had the lid open on the feeding outwell, the fungi died quickly. But when I put the lid on, the less ventilation was enough for the fungi to survive. So now I have a fungi in a dry pot that's growing every day. So yeah,
See,
that's just
interesting to know if the ants actually know if they're kind of regulating the humidity. Because the general
I
thought
think
is
they
that
do.
they go into that environment and the environment's perfect for them, right? But thinking about it, they're probably doing a lot of that themselves, but we just haven't kind of twigged onto that. Obviously, the environment it can't be completely off for that to happen. They can't change the temperatures, 3-4 degrees. They can't do the humidity stupid levels. But I think there must be some amount of control in how they're cutting, or I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but it's just a little thought.
Well, I think they've got to be super aware of the humidity because ants they breathe through their exoskeleton and they also need humidity in the air for their joints to work.
Okay.
I learned that on I think it was Real Science. You know what? I'll make that my ant news. So Real
Hey.
Science on YouTube has an episode about ants, particular just ants. She goes way into like the whole biology aspect of it, and there's some really useful, interesting stuff in there for ant care. So yeah, it's just I think they've got to be aware of how much humidity is in the air, and like temperature and humidity seems to be like most of what care is based off of.
Yeah. So of course
Yeah.
we're gonna redo the Leafcutter chat in 2 episodes because episode 4 was Leafcutters and 14 will also be given to Leafcutters. But I think before we head to Sam and my ant news, I think it's very interesting that Leafcutters, they have trash, they have fungi, and they have the feeding pot. Now, I heard a Danish scientist the other day talking about how the old workers go into the fungi pot and they work in there getting all the old workers go into the trash pot, going in there getting all the disease because there's decaying matter and all of these sick ants are going in there and the whole colony says goodbye to you. You're in there for the rest of your life and die.
Yeah.
I have a very hard time saying that is true. So I have 3 fungi pots, then I have a trash pot, then I have a mixed pot. So the pot I talked about earlier that's dry, they have wet trash in the sides. So I think that's the way of them trying to control the humidity. In the beginning it was a lot more, but now it's nothing. Because in my feeding pot, that's where it gets very hectic. Because in my feeding pot, I have everything is broken. The ants can escape. I can't feed them anymore. That's why I would like a new setup because they escape every day I feed them. But in there, they have half of that trash, not in the trash pot, but in the feeding outwell. Then they have all the leaves I give them, and then they also have a bloody fungi in there. So the biggest fungi is it's filling the entire floor of the feeding pot. So we have a floor of fungi. Then we have leaves and trash all mixed together in one big chaos pot. And I don't know, it just makes me question what if trash is really so bad as they say.
See,
Because the trash pot is actually quite empty. Only the sides is filled with trash, but in the middle it's empty.
I guess there are lots of
Yeah.
variables that play a factor to that. I know me and Rich were talking about the other day, and Rich has actually witnessed one of the ants that fell into the trash pod. I think he watched it for a little while. It might have been 20 minutes, something like that. Or not watched just it, but, it was a slightly bigger one, and you can tell then when it's going back up. And I think it tried to go back up the, what have we got? Like the string, whatever you want to call it, back into the fungus pod. And because
Yeah.
the trash and the fungus pod are so close together, he actually saw ants at the top guarding the pod, and they did a little bit of an interaction.
That's strange.
And Rich said he's pretty sure that they were almost attacking and killing the other one and stopping it from going back anywhere near the fungi. It wasn't allowed.
That's so strange compared to my colony, man.
Yeah.
That's why I love ants. They are so unpredictable.
Alex,
again-
your quality sounds like it's getting close to having to have a setup like that BBC documentary about leaf cutters.
Yeah, my setup is on the verge of an explosion. I can tell you that much. That's why after this podcast I'm gonna talk with Wakushi about the development of the next versions, because they are in development. And
But you're probably going to
Yeah.
look at your bank account nervously over the next kind of few months, aren't you?
oh yeah,
You
yeah.
watch
Just
this,
by I looked at them as a barber setup. They need a completely new setup.
or
I checked with around 500 pounds. So, yep, crying in Danish. That's that's the good thing about big species. But then again, instead of having 500 pounds worth of nest and also outwelts, I could just get the Saturn extra
I
large
see what
and
you
just
did
get just get 3 of them. The thing is, they're even stackable, so you can just get 4 Saturn extra large, and then I think my entire colony could fit in there with outwelts and everything. But yeah, and they're not stackable. I'll take that back. It's not. I mean, they are, but not connected.
Well, I think this
but
podcast
yeah, I
should
think-
be sponsored by Sid. That of nice stuff. We've
No.
said today.
That's. I initially wanted to get on this podcast, but I thought no. Then
That's going to make
then
it
it
far
will
too
be
biased, isn't it?
exactly. But it's very hard not to. For me, it's very hard to. A lot of people are like, "Are you like a Wakushi? Oh, he sponsors you, he gets you stuff." But to be honest,
We like the
I
product.
initially I didn't even like the products.
Okay.
Initially, when he contacted me regarding some kind of Ligniperda experiment, that was the first time I talked with him. I looked at the website and I was like, nah, that looks confusing. Nah, I wasn't a fan. And then I started using. I think I used the Venus nest in the experiment, in the Camponotus Ligniperda experiment. And then I started with one nest here and one nest there. And the gypsum block just works so much better than anything I'd tried before. And the Venus was so much easier than having to feed tinfoil dishes inside the small test tubes. So it's not even because I've been sponsored or anything. I didn't like him at first, the products at first. But now it's the only thing I recommend for that reason that I've tried it and yeah, I've become a fan.
You know what, me and Rich are the same. It's that number one, Sid is our friend, so put that into whatever you want.
Yeah,
but,
he is also my friend today,
Yeah.
but back then he wasn't, of course.
but you can put that to one side, right? Because even though somebody can be your friend, but if they're going to try and sell you stuff and all the rest of it, and you think it's rubbish, you're not going to do it. I don't care how friendly you are with somebody; it's not going to work. So we can put that to one side, which sounds harsh, but if you just look at the products, stuff's good, and that's why we say these good things about it. It's because it works, as you said. If it didn't
Yeah.
work, we wouldn't be saying it.
No, that's the thing. I didn't understand the fuss about the Venus initially, because when it initially came out, that's the thing with Wakushi. There was a lot of negative feedback, and then he just changed it. Oh, you can't expand it. Here's an expansion port. Oh, you can't heat it. Here's a heating cable port. Oh, it's in the wrong place. Okay, I've moved it. It's like all of these small things have made it so much better, and I got to try the final version as the first one I got, and yeah. It was just so much easier, and yeah, I put all my founding colonies in that. So every time I get a founding colony, I just clean up an old Venus and put them in there because it's 15 times easier. It's maybe even 20 times easier. It's just, yeah, I'm a fan. And of course, the Saturn is just the big brother of the Venus. But guys, we have reached the end of this podcast, and I just want to sling it back to you, Casey. Because I can see you have sent something in the chat. So can you just re-quote your ant news ant news. Let's call it ant news.
So, ant news, ant related thing.
Yeah.
It's the video is Real Science, the insane biology of ant colonies, and it's a super interesting video. I think it's like maybe a half hour long. Not sure. It could be a little shorter than that. But yeah, it's just a really good video. There's some. I figured the more you know about the animal you're keeping, the better you are, the better you're going to be at keeping it.
Very true. So yeah,
So yeah, that's why I decided to share this video and the link I shared last time. Just biology's cool.
yeah, I'll definitely yeah, I'm not too much into reading, but videos I like videos, so I'll definitely put this on my watch later video. Watch later, yeah, watch it later. And again, it's called The Insane Biology of Ant Colonies. What about you, Sammy? Do you have any? Have you seen any exciting things this past 14 days, or has it been work, work, work?
You yeah, pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I've had very little time. I'm just trying to think. I was having to think earlier, and I haven't watched any, or I haven't been on YouTube to even update to see what's happened. I know, it's shocking. Actually, no,
That's
I lied.
terrible.
You know what I watched earlier whilst eating my Subway outside at lunch break was I don't know if it's ant news or not, but it's just something I enjoyed watching. Was the Myrmica rubra update from Ants Rambling? I think. It
Oh
was
yeah, I
Ants
saw that
Rambling.
as well.
Yes, there we are.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
he did
watching
a
that.
small one.
It's just little
Yeah, I
things.
think also, I think it isn't ant news. I think it's just what have happened this past 7 days.
Yeah.
So it isn't like big highlight. That's what ant news. It's just whatever have happened.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
enjoyed that because just it's nice to see how colonies from, of course, when I've raised them up for so long and we're sending them out, I don't see a lot of them ever again, right? We'll see how they're doing. They kind of remain anonymous in the background somewhere. So when I can see a queen that's doing well, it's nice then.
Very true. I can understand that. Except I don't. I understand the theory of it.
Well, you can kind of imagine it, right? Imagine raising
Yeah, it
up your
makes
barbarous
sense.
colony and then sending it out somewhere, and then you don't see it again for like 2 years until somebody goes, "Oh, by the way, I didn't kill it. It's doing well." You know what I mean? You'd be happy.
Yeah. So with ending on with my news, I have kind of two news. I would like to give a shout out to a guy called Ant Notes. So it's literally Ants Notes with an S after notes. So Ant Nuts. So yeah, all in one word. He doesn't upload too much, but it's a YouTuber with currently 26 subscribers. So if you are going over to him, please say the Antpod sent me and notes. And yeah, I really like his honesty. He had some problems with a Ferranto nest, and he just said, yeah, look, it's cracking. My ants are escaping. Then Ferranto responded how he should fix it, and he just did a video on how he fixed it. And I don't know. I really like how honest he is. Just as this last week, 2 weeks ago, he put out a video with former art nests, and he just talks about it and shares his very honest opinions. So yeah, just shout him out for my ant news. But also, I don't know how many of you are following Ants Canada, and I don't know enough about weaver ants to say if it's the real pace or not. But Ants Canada, he have done 4 videos in 4 weeks, going from one weaver ant queen to a weaver queen with eggs to a weaver queen with larvae.
I have enjoyed that series. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I have enjoyed it, but I don't know if the colony actually grows that fast. But when Danish ant keepers getting a Asia's Niger queen, and I say, yeah, around 1.5 months or something, you'll get the first workers. They respond, what about Ants Canada? And I don't know. I feel, yeah.
I'll
You know,
do it again.
his video pre-recorded too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing. It must be pre-recorded, but I feel it's a shame he doesn't share that it actually doesn't go this quickly. Because although I do like Ants Canada and many others don't like him, I am a fan of him and I do watch all the videos. I'm just feeling it may misrepresent the hobby a little bit. That it just flies by with week 1 eggs, week 2 larvae, week 3 pupae, week 4 workers. Yeah. I don't know. That was my 2 ant news at least.
You should cut to like an image of him like the reality of it. Like do all his videos, and at the end of it, it's the reality of him sitting on a chair. Try not to kind of lift the tinfoil off and disturb her. I think that's the the reality that everyone can relate to with founding queens. When you're just sitting there and you want to check on her, and you wish you could see through the tinfoil without actually, taking it off or disturbing and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm just impressed.
Red top. No.
Huh?
It's a Venus nest with the red cover.
Exactly. That's the thing. Why doesn't he share that? I'm just impressed that you've kept a queen in a bottle, an empty water bottle, and going in manually hydrating it. That's interesting tactics.
It's jumpy as a weaver ant. Like
yeah. Well, it's been fun following at least, but yeah. I think I don't know if he does it because I don't watch the end where it says thank you for watching this week's video. So I don't know if he does mention it, but I think it would be worth for him to mention it's actually been a month or something, just to keep the real in. But guys, we have hit the end mark. We are a little bit longer than usual, I think, which doesn't matter because we aim for this podcast to become a little bit longer. But a little ask around the table. I would like to what starting with you, Casey. What do you think the future ant nest will be, and what would your dream nest be? Would it be something giant Tar Heel ant styled, or would it be test tubes, or what would your dream setup be, and what do you think the future will be?
I was actually prepared for this question. I have some notes. Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
So I think the future of ant nest is going to be simple. My dream nest, though, would be something like, have you ever seen one of those coffee tables with the glass top on it?
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what if you had something about that size, but like waist high, just like a little 4x4x4 cut of desert in the middle of this table, and then instead of having drawers on the side of the table, you would just have little wooden covers that you pull off, and you have, for me, it would be a Tar Heel ant style nest in the sides, like in the walls, and have all those connect into one big nest. So big ant farm coffee table. That's my absolute dream nest.
That sure sounds mega cool. Yeah, that sounds crazy.
Or if I could get a Pogonomimex ant hill inside of an enclosure somehow, then I would be happy.
Yeah, you sent some pictures of how big they are. That's good luck. That's they look big.
It's like me saying I want roofer inside my room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, giant nest, hard to replicate. But yeah, I mean, it must be possible if you just have enough space. And what about you, Sam? What would you like? What do you think the future will be, and what would your dream future nest be?
Okay, so surprisingly, I'm not as prepared as KC, so I don't have any notes.
I'm not either.
But simply, yeah, I'd see the future being simple. Especially, it's like I said at the start, basically, as more people get into the hobby and as things are expanding, new keepers, even old keepers, but they just don't know what they're doing as much. Simple is the way to go. People can learn a lot more about the ants and focus on the ants without having to worry about all the bits that go with it, and then it puts people off, of course. So I really think the future is going to be simple. For a dream nest, so I'm trying to think now. I'm not too sure. I might have to answer this in a future podcast of what my absolute dream nest would be. But it would probably either some Venators
I'm
or
not sure either.
ants, or I don't know. Something along the... For me, it would be the species over the actual nest, because I go what species I want, and then I work out the nest. So it's quite hard to say.
Yeah, I think for my dream nest, I'm gonna do a mix almost of The thing is, all my ants are in my ant room, and I really wanna show my ants to. I don't get many people visiting, but I would like to have some kind of setup outside my ant room, and satins are just really the thing that you can just take a satin and just put it on a table, like we did at Ancon. There was just satin scattered around. It would be, you can just have a satin on the table and just watch the ants. I feel the thing that is so easy to pick her up and go around is very cool. So I would love to have like my Tetromorium bicarinatum. Once they get big in numbers, just have something like a Saturn extra large or something, and just put it outside the ant room, so people can actually see it when they come visit. But I do think right here now, I think the future is very simple, and I can't say anything. But my dream nest right now is just a Saturn. It's so weird for me, but I didn't know before I used the Venus, I never really liked the nest I used. They weren't really connecting with me. Then I tried the Venus, and it was definitely connecting a lot more with me because it was simpler. And now, even though I only use one Saturn at the moment, I just feel it's so simple, and I love it. I want all my colonies to be in them, just because they seem so simple, and you can just pick them up and actually put them out so people can see it. Yeah. I think that'll be my final words, and we'll go back and see if Sam have a dream set up in another podcast.
Yeah. The problem I've got is that my dream setup is probably going to change week by week because I see a species I want, and they're like, right, okay. I fixate on that kind of idea, and then I'll go, right, okay, I've got that planned in my head for the future when I can get this species in.
I think
let's move on to the next one.
Any dream nest is going to be a nest that highlights the specialization of the species.
Yeah, you've
very true words. Very true words.
got nothing to add to that. That's literally how it is.
No. That's the perfect ending. Because, yeah, that's the perfect ending. And guys, we have, of course, not prepared our outro format. But yeah, Casey, do you have any final words? Do you have any final words for the viewers?
My last comment was so profound, I really don't want to say anything else.
I can respect that. What about you, Sam?
No, I haven't got much to say, just apart from thanks for listening, and as per usual, I'll be here next week.
Exactly. And we hope Ryan will also be here next week. Next week's topic is something that's been very controversial in the past, because we are talking about YouTube Shorts, we are talking about Instagram Reels and TikToks, and how it have changed ant keeping. Actually, I should contact Lights Camera Ant and see if he wants to join, because he is the big controversy in a good and bad way, because he really changed TikTok. I might just pop him a message and see if we can get Lights Camera Ant on the show, because he's really done some both not so good things, but also some amazing things with the community, with TikTok in particular. But yeah, I want to say thank you all for listening into this show. I hope you have liked our very non-biased thoughts, very neutral thoughts, and no specific love for any. Again, that's why I would like Ryan here, because Ryan, he could have said no, naturalistic. But yeah, I want to say thank you all for listening. If you have found this episode interesting, please go ahead and share it with all of your friends and families. And with that being said, don't forget to come back next week. And I have my YouTube outro mixing it with my podcast outro. It's not going well. I just want to say goodbye to everyone. Have a nice weekend. See you all next week. Bye.